What's up, comic book fans? Mike Spider Slayer here, and welcome back to Comic Book Corner 2.0. That's right, guys. And today we're talking about another comic book of sorts, I guess. And I guess we're going to be talking about X-Men Battle of the Atom, chapter number 1. That's right, guys. Trying to cover a little bit of everything this week since there's so many books. I've reviewed Forever Evil, Superior Spider-Man, a Villains Month cover, and now we're going to be doing the part 1 of Battle of the Atom. And of course, all these comics will be done on a countdown by Monday or Tuesday. So stay tuned for that. But today we're talking about the first issue of Battle of Atom. I have not read the second one yet. I do have it, but I want to give you my thoughts after reading this first issue. So, this is a big event for the X-Men. X-Men events are usually pretty big. They're pretty popular. This book here was written by Brian Michael Bendis, and the art is done by 3 different artists, I think, in here. It's Frank Cho with Stuart Monaman and Grawbadger, I think is their name. So the artwork in this book is done really well. I really enjoyed looking at it. This X-Men title, the X-Men title in general, usually all new X-Men or whatnot, is usually great artists in here. It's got nice splash-like pages, great paneling in this book. One of my favorite pictures in here was this one right here, which I think was done by Frank Cho. Pretty familiar with his artwork, so I'm pretty sure that was him who did that particular page. Here's another great page here. So visually, this book was beautiful. I truly enjoyed this book. Seeing Sentinels again. Seeing those Sentinels always reminds me of that 90s X-Men cartoon. And every time they talk, it reminds me of mutants ahead. Annihilate them. You know, I just have that voice in my head on the way they actually are. And then you got the X-Men that come up and they show themselves here, the Uncanny X-Men. So a really, really interesting book to look at. I was amazed by the artwork in here. So what do I think of the story? I think the story was a complete it was a setup issue basically to that last page, and that's why they came out with 2 books for this beginning of the event, because the first issue had to do really about our X-Men that traveled from the past, and they're trying to recover new mutants that pop up, and it's been this competition between the Uncanny X-Men and obviously the new X-Men to try to recover these mutants to bring them on their team or do whatever it is. And they come across this one mutant that I guess creates illusions or dragons or whatever it is, and she's terrorizing the city. And while our young X-Men are actually trying to stop her, we get a nice visual here of Jean Grey seeing where she came from, what she's about, and what her past is. Well, while they're trying to recover her, we get the attack of the Sentinels. And the Sentinels come around, and again, they're just like, mutants, stop, please. And we see Kitty Pryde sitting there, being a great leader, and I think she's been a great leader in this series overall in general. And the mutants are, trying to survive against the Sentinels. And Scott's in deep trouble, and then what happens is you get the Uncanny X-Men that come and help them and join them by their side. And it's something you don't see too often anymore. And where I thought that the all-new X-Men series was at its best was when Scott Summers, the current Scott Summers, and Magneto and everybody else were together in that book. I thought that's where that title actually shined the best. But however, you see them working together, trying to take out all the Sentinels, because again, X-Men against X-Men, whatever the case, when the Sentinels are against the X-Men, you got to do what you got to do. But in the whole gist of it all, we see that Scott Summers winds up in severe trouble and almost erases the current Scott Summers. And when I'm reading the issue at this point, it gets all blurry because you see like the existence is starting to disappear from Scott Summers. And I was like practically having a seizure while reading this part. I'm sitting there going, oh my God, what's going on? But obviously, since young Scott Summers is almost dying, we see that the current Scott Summers could die as well. So what happens is finally we come to a realization that these young X-Men, after many, many issues of this series, we find out that they all finally come into agreement saying, you guys need to go back because you are threatening everything that can happen is in existence. And they all come to agreement, which is Kitty Pryde and Wolverine and Storm and Iceman and Beast. And they're like, whatever. Then all of a sudden the Time Cube actually appears, and you see X-Men appear from the future. And that's what happens in this particular issue. And so you see a Beast with horns on his head. Looks like you got old school Deadpool, old man Deadpool here. Can't quite make out who the rest of them are. So I'm anxiously awaiting to read part 2 to find out where it's going from here. Is that Kitty Pryde in the future as an older woman? I'm not sure. However, it's very interesting. I'm totally intrigued by reading this issue and can't wait to see who these future X-Men are in part 2. At the end of the issue, though, you get some great pin-up pages, which is nice to see. You get pages like this here of the classic X-Men. You get pages of the Uncanny X-Men. Here's another one of Wolverine and the X-Men, where obviously this is all taking place, which is a nice cover. You get another one of X-Men here. And let's see. And then, of course, you get the future X-Men, which I think the big guy is Iceman in the future, but fat. I don't know. Where the story goes, I'm not sure, but this was a nice little story here. It was nice to finally see, even though this is like its own book here, X-Men or whatever, Battle of the X-Men, it's nice to see these characters finally moving forward. I kind of felt like we were kind of stale in the X-Men series, and they were stalling until this event finally came out. And so they decided to make an event and put it in all of their books instead of progressing it in the X-Men story, because that's what this is. It's an X-Men story. But this is where this series really needed to go a few issues back. They were kind of delaying it by doing these filler story arcs and whatnot. And this is where it continues off from. This is where we've all wanted for a long time. And I can't wait to read issue 2. The characters in here were well written like usual. Brian Michael Bendis still writing it, and the artwork was phenomenally done by the many different artists here. So if you're looking to buy issue 2, or if you haven't bought issue 2 yet and you only bought issue 1 based off of reading this first issue, I say go out and get the next one, because this was a great read. I give it probably about a 4 out of 5. I thought this was really a good and solid book. Left me with questions at the end of it, of course, and I can't wait to read the second issue. So guys, tell me if you bought this one. Did you buy part 2 also? Tell me what you think. Do you agree on my theory about, should this event maybe could have stayed contained in the actual X-Men storyline or Uncanny X-Men, and just instead of doing all these filler issues? So give me your thoughts on that. So until the next comic book review, guys, thank you for watching Comic Book Corner 2.0. And as always, this is Mike Spider Slayer signing off. I see you guys real soon. Take care, everyone. Bye.